Good evening, students. Hope we are audible, right? Yes. Can we get some yes on the chat box? Thank you. All right, so let's get started. So welcome to the session. So actually the session is on the digital SAT, and the College Board has announced that the SAT will be converted to digital format from March 2023 for international students and in 2024 for US students. So this is a positive change and we must welcome it because it reaffirms the relevance and importance of standardized testing in a post-COVID situation. But this change has created a bit of confusion in students' mind about the test structure, the scoring pattern, the content tested, registration process, etc. So to answer all these queries and clear all your doubts and myths about the digital SAT, we have with us Mr. Ramkumar. Ramkumar, as the academic head of Manya, the Princeton Review, is the heart, brain, and soul behind the formidable Manya academic team. He has over 20 years of rich experience in education and test prep industry. Welcome, Mr. Ram.
Thank you, Mantu. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the session.
Yes. So without wasting time, let's get started with our session. So my first question to you, Ram, is what is it that the student have to know before taking up the digital SAT?
All right, Mantu. So the College Board, which is the maker of the SAT, is introducing changes to both the content of the test and how the test is administered in order to better fit the needs of the students. All right. Most notably, you can say the test will transition from being taken with a paper and pencil format to being administered through a digital format using a computer. While the transition, is getting into digital format, this is going to be more of student-friendly test. Well, if you ask me, student-friendly test, is the test going to be easier? No. It's just that the way the test is administered, and if the student take it online, yes, it becomes easier. And more importantly, it is very, very secure and more relevant. Well, I have a few more points to discuss. Okay, so some of the digital SAT facts, as you can see, the test is conducted in the online format. On the test dates, the students are allowed to bring their own devices. It could be a laptop or a tablet. If it is a laptop, please be sure that you have your laptop charged full for 3 hours. So that doesn't mean that the test center will not provide you a socket or the charging point. They might, but that sort of, if sometimes if the battery runs off, probably you might have to get a help. That may sort of create some panic among you. Okay, so it is better charge it full and bring it. Well, if someone doesn't want to bring his or her own laptop, they can always request the testing center to provide one while registering for the test. Okay, don't wait for the test day and go to the center and make a request. You will not get it done. Okay, so you have to make the request while you are registering for the test. All right. Now, where are these tests administered? Just because the test is conducted online, it doesn't mean that it can be taken from home. Okay, so the tests are administered only in schools and the test centers with a proctor. All right. Now, the digital SAT has become shorter by almost 45 minutes when you compare this with a paper and pencil SAT, which will still be administered in America for the entire 2023, because as Mantu said, the digital SAT would come into practice only from March 2024. All right. So what are the sections that are tested in digital SAT? I mean, there is no big change. Okay, it's the reading and writing as compared to the paper and pencil SAT, and of course the math. All right. The total score still remains the same as in paper and pencil SAT, 400 to 1600 in 10-point intervals. Now, one good thing is that calculators are now allowed throughout the entire math section. In fact, a graphing calculator is integrated into the digital test experience so that all students have access to it. All right. Now, you must have heard about, digital SAT has become a multi-stage adaptive test. So what is this multi-stage adaptive test all about? So let's consider, a verbal section which comes first in the digital SAT. So in the first verbal section, which will have two modules. The first module will contain a broad mix of easy, medium, and hard questions. If a student does well in module 1, then they can expect a harder section in module 2. Whereas if a student doesn't perform very well, so obviously they are going to get an easier section. So what can I expect in the module 2? Of course, if it is harder, most of the questions would be harder. Again, it will also have, a mix of, varying difficulties. All right. So both the module scores are put together, and College Board has its own algorithm. So they use something called equating and get the students' score for each section. So yes, digital SAT is computer adaptive. Now let's look at the overall test specifications. So now that we have known that the verbal and the quant are adaptive tests, each one will have 2 separately timed modules. Okay, now how many questions can I expect in the reading and writing section? So in the first module, one can expect 25 operational questions and 2 pre-test questions. So what are operational questions? Operational questions are nothing but the questions that accounts for your score. So what does mean the pre-test questions? What do you mean by pre-test questions? Pre-test questions are nothing but experimental questions. All right. Now, okay, what about module 2? So be it easier or harder, the number of questions will not change. You will still get 25 operational questions and 2 pre-test questions. So you might be wondering, will I be able to identify those pre-test questions? Unfortunately, no. There's no chance that anyone can identify the pre-test questions. So you'll have to answer all the 27 questions in module 1, all the 27 questions in module 2, assuming all of them account towards your score. All right. So if you put together both modules, 27 plus 27 gives a 54 question in total on the reading and writing section. And each module, the duration of each module is 32 minutes, which means total duration for reading and writing module is 64 minutes, which is approximately 1 minute and 0.2. Okay. Now, what can I expect under math? Again, 2 modules, but number of questions vary. Here, 20 operational questions and 2 pretest questions. Same gets repeated in module 2. Number of questions in math total is 44, and the total time taken for both the modules is 70 minutes, and an average time taken per question in quant is 1.6 minutes. So altogether, if you see, it's a 2 hour and 14 minutes test. Okay, you might be wondering, so will all these sections and modules will come without a break? No. So after the completion of the 2 modules and the reading and writing, one can expect a 10-minute break. Okay. Of course, this is optional. Okay. So if you want to continue, you can skip the interval and then you can move on. But it is highly recommended that you take the break, because it's not easy to continuously, solve questions in verbal and then move on to math. It would be tiresome. All right. Now that we have seen the overall test specification, I would just want to show you people the different type of questions in quant. So you can see under math, you will encounter almost 75% of multiple choice questions, which I think everyone is aware of. Also, remaining 25%, you can expect student produced responses questions, which is nothing but you will not see answer choices, the 4 answer choices. Rather, you will solve the problem and you will get a single answer or a range of answers. You just have to put one answer in case you're getting a range of answers. Okay. Similarly, I want to showcase a verbal question. Okay, this is a verbal question. You must be wondering, okay, those who have known about the paper and pencil SAT, there would be a huge passage, in fact, a few larger passages amounting to 700 to 900 words, where you have to, skim, do a lot of ideas and then use a lot of techniques to, get it shorter and then answer questions. Whereas here, it's very, very shorter. Minimum of 50 words and a maximum of 150 words per question. So here the passages are discrete. So every question will have its own short passage. So the passages will not be shared between questions. Got it? Now that you have seen a sample verbal and sample quant questions, I'm going to show you how these questions appear on the College Board test, which will be conducted through a Blue Book app. I'm going to show you how it looks. So this is how this is. Let's look at the layout of the digital SAT page. So you will see on the top left the section number, which is here. Section 1 is the reading and writing. Of course, next to that, you will see the module 1. Okay. And in the middle of the screen, top middle, I can say, top middle, you will see the timer, a countdown timer, which is displayed in the top middle. On the right, you will see a help menu here and an annotation tool. So what can one expect under annotation tool? If student click on this annotation tool, you will be taken to this passage. So I have not given the passage here because it's not good. So I've just closed it. So just assume this is a passage. So if I click on this, I can select a few words, a single word, which gets highlighted. And I will also be able to make notes for that particular passage that's being highlighted. Okay, so that's the use of the annotating tools. Now, So that appears on the left half. So if you want to enlarge the screen, there is a point here where you can enlarge. And on the right hand side, you will see the question here and then the 4 answer choices. All right. Above the question, you will come across 2 important tools. This one is mark for review. Suppose, this question is difficult and you wanted to reserve this question towards the end. Then in that case, you can click on this tag so it gets marked for review. All right. Or let's say you have started answering, but somehow you feel that you have not answered it correctly. So you still have that, ambiguity. In that case also, you can just mark. You can click the answer and then still mark it. Okay, mark for review. Now, this tool is for process of elimination. You can click this tool, the process of elimination tool pops up. Then you can eliminate. Suppose if A does not match, you can eliminate. B you can eliminate, then C you can eliminate. So you can use this tool for elimination. Now, in the bottom middle of the screen, you will see the review screen. So if you click this chevron here, that the drop up pointer, it will take you to the review screen where all the, suppose if this is the verbal section, the reading and writing section, the 27 questions will be displayed in terms of boxes, small boxes. So the purpose or the importance of this review screen is you can easily navigate to any question. Also, it will show on which question you're working on. And you can also identify the questions that are marked. Like earlier I said, no, if you find a question is difficult, you would have marked it. So at the end of the test, you can just click here and you will see that tag mark here on the question number. So you can easily click on it and then go to that question. You don't have to go back and forth, rather use this review screen. All right. Okay, let's quickly look at the content domains. I'm not going to take so much of time here. So on the reading and writing sections, there are 4 major content domains, which are information and ideas, which contributes to 26%, craft and structure, about 28%, expression of ideas, roughly about 20%, and standard English conventions, which accounts for around 26%. All right. Similarly, for math, you will see algebra and advanced math alone take up 70% of the test. Can you see the 35 and 35? So 70% of the questions will be tested from algebra and advanced math, and about 30% of the questions will be covered from problem solving and data analysis and geometry and trigonometry. So Mantu, that's about the structure and the specifications of the test.
Thank you, Ram. So this is a quite informative information, Ram. I'm sure student must have taken note of it. Also, I think student find the scoring pattern of digital SAT a little bit confusing. So could you explain it for them, Ram?
Sure. Yes, I do agree. The scoring algorithm for a multi-stage test is not that easy to understand. So let me just take it slowly while I'm explaining this. So, so let's assume a student has started taking the verbal section. So he gets, quant section. So I've taken 22 questions, which means a student has come to a quant section. Now in the module 1, he will see a mix of easy, medium, and hard. So we have given here as a key. You can see the light gray easy, a medium one medium, and the darker one is harder. Okay. So a mix of easy, medium, and hard questions. Okay, now also we have indicated certain other notations, like, you can see a curved line at the bottom, which corresponds to the pre-test questions I was talking about. Okay, so one may get a 5th question and an 18th question as pre-test question, but somebody sitting next to you may have a 9th question and maybe a 15th question. So nobody knows, which questions are pre-test questions. Also, there's a small, chevron here, okay, which indicates the student produced responses questions. Where I was showing there will be no answer choices, just a box. Student has to put the box. So those are 5. I mean, 4 to 6 in number, approximately 5 we've taken. Okay, 4 to 6 in number. So again, it doesn't restrict that, these questions will be tested only from easy or medium or hard. It can be from very difficulty types. Okay, so now module 1 is done, but now I'm going to take 2 students' performance. Okay, let's say student A has not done very well. So I'm assuming he gets less than 50% of the questions right. Okay, if that's the case, definitely he is not eligible for a harder section in module 2. So which means he is going to get an easier section. So poor performance in module 1, you will be getting an easier section. So you can see the module 2 of student A. So in module 2 here, mostly you can see easy, some medium and some hard. Okay, now can the student get a 800? Is there a possibility? No way, because first of all, he has not even cleared 50% of the questions here. And even if he gets everything right, a maximum score he would get maybe is around 550. So it is restricted. So what is the lesson learned from this? Do the first module well. Well, that doesn't mean that you can do the second module bad. No, you have to do both the modules well. So student A has performed less than 50 and he got an easier section. So even if he gets, all correct, the maximum score would be around 550. Okay, now let's take a student B. Student B has done well in module 1. Let's say he has got 75% of the questions right. Then he is eligible for a harder section. So you can see the harder section here. Most of the questions are harder and a few easy and medium. Okay, now can this student, will this student be able to score 800? Possible, but again, not with 75% correct here and getting everything right here. He has to do well in the first section, well in the sense, get everything right and get everything right in the second module as well. So, you might be asking yourself, so the perfect score of 800 is possible. Is it possible only if I get all the questions right? Not really. In math, it all depends on the difficulty level also. Okay, so in most cases, yes, in math you have to get everything right, you get 800. But very rarely, if the test questions are much harder, then College Board gives that one question, you can make one question wrong, still end up with 800. So is the algorithm going to work the same as math and verbal? Well, the difficulty level, everything works the same, but only thing in verbal, we've seen, okay, so you might be wondering, okay, how am I getting these information from? So we and our team have taken the College Board, the digital SAT, they have released 4 tests. So we have taken the test, we have understood the algorithm. So we have found out that in math, you get a perfect score. Even if you miss one question, that depends on, the difficulty level. Again, in verbal, we were able to get 800 even by making 2 mistakes. So these are, these are not to be taken as rules. Okay, So these are just an information I'm passing on. Okay, so you have to make sure you get everything right. Okay, so, and also if you make one mistake, don't get depressed, or you're not able to answer a question in module 1. That should not actually bring everything down. All right, you must just keep continuing. So for those students, I'm giving you, even if you make one mistake, there is still a chance of scoring 800. So that is why I brought this point in. I'm sure everybody has understood how the scores are being generated and how it is calculated, and the algorithm as well. Mantu?
Yes. So thank you. Very good explanation, Ram. I think most of the students, all of them have got it, how the scoring process, scoring algorithm works for the digital SAT. Now the students have an entire picture about what to expect on the digital SAT, but what are the things they should keep in mind while, before registering the digital SAT, Ram?
The first and the foremost thing is the deadlines for registration. Suppose if I'm planning to take the March 11th digital SAT, I have to be aware of the deadline for the test. Okay, the deadline for registration is 24th of February, okay, which is 2 weeks, okay, from the actual test. And for the May 6th, again, 14 days in advance, that's the deadline. All right. Now, that's the first thing everybody should, because we have seen some of our students and parents missing deadlines when it comes to the planning of the test. Please plan your test. If you are taking the March 11th SAT, then make sure that you are booked. So sometimes, the seats may get filled even faster. Okay, it is always good, if you are determined to take the March 11th SAT, book your test slots before February 24th. Okay. Now, sometimes, what if all the seats are going to get filled? Then obviously you have to go for the other administrations like May 6th or June 3rd. All right.
Is there any extension given, Ram, for the deadline? If I miss the deadline, is there any extension?
Okay. So for international students, the extension of deadline is not possible. Okay, so College Board has not announced anything like that. So you have to meet the deadlines. Okay, no late registrations for international students.
Okay. What about the registration process itself, Ram? Are there any situations where students end up not writing up the test?
Oh, yes. So before we look at when and how the students not end up writing the test, I would just want to give a brief account on, the SAT registration facts, whereby one has to register at College Board website, which is given here. And the test fees for Indian students is 103 to 109. It varies, okay, with commissions and everything. Most mode of the payment is either by credit card or debit card, and with definitely a Visa or MasterCard logo. For Indian students, either a valid passport or Aadhaar card is mandatory. All right. Well, sometimes due to several reasons, student may want to change the test center. So which means the student has to shell out another $25 for changing the test center. If in case student changes his mind and wants to cancel the registration, that would cost, at $25. I think the registration deadline we have talked about earlier, 2 weeks before the actual test. what retaking policy? So is there any restriction? Of course not. If you're a genuine test taker, have not done any malpractices, SAT would allow to take this. I mean, the College Board would allow to take the SAT any number of times. But it won't be so good, or it won't look nice if you take so many times. So ideally, what we would say is better to do it once. It's okay 2 times, but not more than 3 times. All right. When it comes to retaking policy, please keep this in mind. The scores are valid for 5 years. So 11th grade student, even a 10th grade student, if he is ready, he can definitely, do the SAT. All right. The question which Mantu is asking about, so I would just wanted to talk about under testing policies. So one must present acceptable photo ID for admission to the test center. If you go without the passport or Aadhaar card, original, okay, not the photocopy, please note down. If you do not go with the photo identification in original, then you will be barred from taking the test. Now, another thing which is very bad, allowing someone to impersonate to take the test, or engaging in impersonation to take the test for someone else is strictly prohibited. And the third one is never access your phones even during breaks. That's not. So obviously you'll be given a locker where you can store your phones and whatever belongings you bring, for example, water or something, but never access your phone. All right. Yes, Mantu.
Yes. So we have understood the registration process and deadlines and the situation where students are not allowed to take the test. But Ram, are the students late for the March test? Like they have good time in hand to prepare for the March test, or how should they plan?
Okay, so ideal preparation time for SAT digital test would be 3 months. Within the 3 months, one can start with a diagnostic test from the Blue Book app of College Board and identify the weaker and stronger areas. Then he or she has to join a course. So normally SAT course would be for 2 months, okay, unless if a student goes for some crash course, which happens for 1 month. So a 2 months course plus 1 month of self-preparation. When I say self-preparation, practice more questions and then take the test in intervals. All that would help, definitely. So your question was, is it too late now?
Yeah.
Not really, because I would say minimum prep time would be 8 weeks. So I think the test date is roughly about 8 weeks from now. So, I mean, students can still, plan and take the March 11th SAT. So the deadlines are still open till the Feb 24th. So they should go for planning of March 11 SAT, planning and registering for the March SAT. Now, one thing to note is we've seen students not taking the full length practice test. That's very bad. A student cannot break the test, do the verbal section today and continue the math tomorrow. That's not allowed. Okay. So please make sure you do the full length test in one go. All right. So that's the best way, you would sort of get used to the full length test experience, because you have to build that endurance to sit for 2 hours and 14 minutes. If you don't practice full length test, then it would be very difficult for you to withstand that 2 hours and 14 minutes without including breaks. Okay. So very, very important. The test should be taken in full. All right.
Also, Ram, as you're suggesting that they should take the full length test, but I've seen students taking tests late night because they have schools and they have school homeworks and all. What do you suggest for them?
Okay. Yeah, I know the kids nowadays having hectic life. So with the private tuitions and school assignments, they hardly get time. But somehow, if you're planning to take the test and you have to draw a complete chart of what I should be doing, when I should be doing, never ever go for late night test taking. In fact, in Manya, we recommend students to go for the test in the same time where the actual test is administered. For example, SATs are administered on Saturdays from 8:30 onwards. So in fact, your mind gets set on a Saturday, 8:30 to sort of 11. It's a time for me to practice tests. So that would be the ideal way of practicing tests. So taking tests, while you're sleepy, late night, I don't think it would be a better gauge of your ability. So please avoid doing that. It is better plan in advance, make a schedule, make a chart. Be sure that you are available on a Saturday morning or even a Sunday morning, because on weekdays, it's not possible for a student to take the test in the morning. So either Saturday or even Sunday is fine. So practice the test, okay, in these times, mornings of Saturdays or Sundays. That would be the ideal time for test taking or practicing tests.
Yes, thank you, thank you. I think the students and parents also should make a note of it.
Yes.
Right. So we have talked about the prep time and the minimum prep time. As you mentioned, it's 8 weeks. So we have very limited time in hand. What would be the right content and where should students look for to get the right practice material instead of wasting time searching?
Okay. That's again a very, very important question, because nowadays you get everything on the internet. Okay. So some of the, test prep companies, they still use the paper and pencil SAT question format. They give it to students who prepare for the digital SAT. But we at Manya, the Princeton Review, we have designed our content which simulates the digital SAT content. So we have those short passages for the reading and the writing practice questions. And for math, again, we are teaching our students how to use the Desmos calculator, graphing calculator, in fact. Okay, so apart from our content, one should also practice more questions from Khan Academy, because Khan Academy is the official partner for the College Board. And when it comes to practicing tests, College Board Blue Book app is currently the best way to assess your strength, weaknesses, and progress. Okay, all that you have to use the College Board, the tests, the 4 tests that they have released. So all put together, Manya, the Princeton Review SAT course bundles all the above. So in fact, we're the first one to launch a digital SAT course batch on the October 15th. So it's almost more than 2 months, in fact, since we have launched the digital SAT course. In fact, the digital SAT courses are, done in almost all the regions, in all the centers. Yes, Mantu.
Yes. So Ram, since the test has become digital, so how soon the student can, get their score report? How can the student send their score report to the university?
All right. So the the paper and pencil SAT test scores were released, after 3 weeks of test taking, whereas now the digital SAT scores will be released in days. The College Board has not specified whether it's going to be 2 days or 7 days, but definitely it's not going to take a longer time. Okay, in shorter time, the scores will be released. Now, when it comes to applying for universities, College Board also gives, or allows you to apply for 4 universities for free. Okay, if a student applies within 9 days of test taking. Beyond 9 days of test taking, there is a charge for the score report, which is again $12. So if a student also wants to apply for more than 4 universities within the 9 days, the first 4 universities will be free of charge. Any additional universities above 4 universities, there's an additional cost for each score report, which is $12. Yes, Mantu.
Right. So now, in a nutshell, what all aspects should a student keep in mind to ensure their success on the test day?
Okay. So, if a student, let's say it's mostly about the test day. Okay, on the test day, how the student has to be ready. So first of all, the Blue Book app, if the student decides to bring his or her own laptop, the Blue Book app has to be installed the day before or a few days back. Obviously, when they are taking practice tests, they should have downloaded the Blue Book app. In that case, absolutely fine. So in case if they are planning to use a different laptop, then at least just install it the day before the test. All right. Now, some students are not so good at or not comfortable using the on-screen calculator. So in that case, they are allowed to use their physical calculator, but an acceptable one. So go to the College Board website and find out what are the acceptable calculators. So one can bring the graphical calculator. It's just that the cost is too heavy. I think it may cost about 10,000 bucks in India. The graphing calculator I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the general scientific one. Okay. So in fact, during our course, we insist students to practice the on-screen calculator because it's pretty much easy. It's just that you have to practice more on it. So with the tests that the students are going to take or practice tests, it would help them use the on-screen calculator seamlessly. So please start practicing the on-screen calculator. In spite of practicing or using the on-screen calculator, if you're not comfortable, feel free to bring the physical calculator. All right. Also, people residing in Bangalore city, it is better to reach the center early. Okay. I mean, I've just quoted one city. I mean, there are other cities as well where the traffic is heavy. So please make sure you reach the center 1 hour in advance, because you may have to do some pre-testing formalities. Sometimes if you have requested for the device, you may have to reach a little early because there might be a queue, unexpected queue. So to avoid everything and to keep yourself calm, it is better you reach 1 hour early. It's very, very important. All right. There are 2 points which I wanted to discuss for the day before the actual test, which is I've seen students practicing full-length tests or learning new concepts on the day before the test. That is not recommended. Please avoid doing it. So keep it light on the test the day before the test day. Maybe you can go through some of the formula, some vocabulary, do a simple revision. You can take a small practice, okay? That doesn't add a lot of stress to you. It's very important, keep it light on the day before the test, all right? And most importantly, you must have a very good sleep, the night before the test day, because that would actually give you sort of freshness on the test day, and you can do the test very well, right?
Yes, so I think we have touched almost all aspects of digital SAT. Still, if we have left any point untouched, undiscussed, so we are open for doubts. So everyone, you can ask your doubts if any. I think we have touched upon all aspects of digital SAT. So next few minutes, we are open for the Q&A, question and answer. Yes, Ram. So one question, what are pre-test questions?
Pre-test questions are experimental questions, okay? In fact, the College Board wants to use them, use these questions to the test takers, so that depending on how the students respond or answer to those questions, they will use it for the future test. So basically, they want the test takers to play guinea pigs for them. Okay, those 8 questions, in fact, 2 questions in each module. So 8 questions will not account for any score. So College Board wants to use students or test takers as guinea pigs to, understand how the questions are worked upon by students. For example, if those questions were answered by almost all the test taker, then they might probably feel that they have to increase the difficulty level, all that stuff. Okay, it's too technical, but it is, there's no way we can identify those pre-test questions. Basically, they are experimental questions.
So Ram, is it useful for students? Are the students, they need to know which questions are experimental questions?
Absolutely not. They should not be worried about what are those experimental questions. Okay, they just have to work upon all the questions that appear on the screen. Do not waste time identifying or trying to identify, can this be experimental, can this not be experimental. Forget about everything, do all the questions.
Yeah, okay. So another question is, are we allowed to use paper and pen for rough work for maths section? So is there any information from College Board, Ram?
Well, we are still waiting, but the question is again a very good question, because for math section, a scratch paper is highly necessary. There's no way that they cannot allow us to use paper, but most likely what we anticipate is, they might be providing either the scratch paper, A4 sheets, or maybe some laminated sheets, which they have not disclosed yet. But scratch paper is mandatory, definitely, for math section. I think the student has specifically said for math section, yes. So we are waiting for the information. So you can get the updates on Manya Group, website, as and when the College Board releases, we will update our website.
Also, I don't think we can take any of our personal, belongings like paper or pen or something like that.
No. They will not allow anything except the calculator. All right. Yeah. Calculator, of course, the passport. Okay.
Yes.
So if you are bringing any scratch paper, any pen, pencil, I think they would simply ask you to lock it in your locker, which will be provided. They will not allow you to take any of your personal belongings except the calculator and the passport or the Aadhaar card.
One student is asking some SAT books recommendations for practice.
Okay. Currently, at Manya, we have a completely digital SAT designed manual. So you will get it only if you enroll with us. And apart from that, College Board, the Khan Academy has questions for practice. College Board has tests, to be practiced.
Yeah. Now, one student is asking, is there any date announced toward the second half of this year by College Board?
Okay, I think these students are really, getting into the College Board website and looking for. So again, there is no official confirmation on the second half of this year, but most likely, earlier when the College Board decided to go digital, they've announced that there will be 7 administrations in a year. So which means if this first half, 3 administrations, so we can expect 4 more administrations, most likely in the month of August, October, November, December. Okay, these are tentative dates. So we can expect those dates. But the College Board is yet to announce it officially.
Yeah. And would we still have common maths formula on digital SAT like we had for paper pencil test?
Yes, yes. So the reference sheet will have it. Okay, so you will have access to the reference sheet when you are doing the math section. Okay, you will have access to the online Desmos graphical calculator as well. Okay, I was showing the tools on the verbal section, but math section will have its own tools like these calculator and the reference sheets.
Yeah. So one question is that pre-test questions are already included in 44 and 54 maths question. Yes.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
It's already it's not additional question.
Yeah.
It's
they
included.
are part of it.
So can we super score with digital SAT?
Yes, I think College Board will definitely continue doing this because they have just given a change to the content and the administration, but everything else remains the same. That's what the College Board says. So I'm pretty sure that this super scoring would continue. Okay, though we will have to wait for all the updates from College Board. College Board is taking time giving these updates.
Yeah. So we have a few more minutes. Any other question? Okay.
Okay, I have a question. I can see a question.
If I have an emergency on test date, can I skip it rather than canceling? Will that have any bad consequences?
I'm not sure of consequences because if you are sick, I think you will have to skip it. Even College Board wouldn't allow when you have high temperature. So I don't think this would have any adverse consequences. So this should be fine. Okay, not a problem.
Yeah. I think this is pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I think we have cleared all the academic doubts.
Mm-hmm.
For more information, you can log on to maniagroup.com, right?
Yeah.
So I want to thank you, Ram, for making this session super interactive while making sure our participants got all the ammunitions to go at the digital SAT exam. I also want to thank the participants for joining us today. Hope you had a great time learning today. To get more details, as I told, log on to our Manya Group website. Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining. Thank you, Ram.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye, Mantu.
Thank you. Bye.